when I got to the first interrogation, the interrogators presented 14 posts, most of them before October 7th. There were posts from 4 years ago, from 2 years ago. Only 1 or 2 posts were after October 7th.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. We'll be starting with something brave. The Writer's Block had their own unofficial display at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This banner reads, "Genocide then, genocide now," referring to the treatment of Indians and Palestinians. Some of the protesters later glued themselves to the street, delaying the start of the parade. About 30 were arrested. And this on the Wampanoag float during the parade, a young man displayed the Palestinian flag. And some cool things done by Jews demanding a ceasefire. This long banner hung from the Space Needle in Seattle. I was on a Zoom call from If Not Now. Someone noticed that the word ceasefire fit exactly on the age-old symbol of Jews, the menorah. Of course, a ceasefire is only the first step. Israel has to get its troops out of Gaza, and all the hospitals need to be reopened and restocked. Hostages and political prisoners should be released to their homes. We record during the 4-day ceasefire, happy that Israel has stopped bombing, but it's only for 4 days, after which Netanyahu says he's going to renew the attack and devastate the south of the Gaza Strip. But do realize the protests have had their effect. All the protests, particularly those in the U.S., made Netanyahu and Biden agree to the 4-day ceasefire. After all, their position for weeks had been no ceasefire without a complete return of the hostages and captured soldiers. So keep up the pressure. Today, more about the Command Center propaganda, a campaign to support an Israeli teacher who was fired for his tweets supporting Palestinians, how Israel will forgive Elon Musk's anti-Semitism, and other parts of the demonstration in Waterbury against the genocide. First, this picture of a mass grave in Gaza. Some of the 14 or 15,000 dead that we know about now. Undoubtedly, there are many more under the rubble, and more to come if Netanyahu and Biden have their way. I want to talk more about the supposed multi-story Hamas command center under Al-Shifa Hospital. This is from an Israeli army post on Twitter. It claims that this command post has entrances to and from the hospital, stolen energy supplies, gasoline, oil, etc., hiding places for murderers, and weapons stores. Now, after a week of total control of Al-Shifa, the Israeli army has posted a video about a tunnel, which it says is underneath the hospital. Off the tunnel, there are a couple of bathrooms and a room where 5 or 6 people could meet at one time. I want to make these points. 1. Israel claimed there was a multi-level command center with entrances to and from it from inside the hospital. No such entrances were ever shown. 2. In the tunnel, there's no tables, no chairs, no closets, no shelves, no papers posted on the wall, no scraps on the floor, no parts of weapons anywhere, no gas cans or any other sign of that supposed stolen fuel. We're supposed to believe that Palestinians took every single bit of everything with them. 3. There were no booby traps left for the Israelis or IEDs anywhere. No defense at all of this, the supposed command center for all their operations. 4. The claim is that there is some exit up to the street, but we're not shown that exit. And then there is this appearance by former Prime Minister Ehud Barak on CNN. He is asked about the command center charge.
It's already known for many years that they have in the bunkers that originally was built by Israeli constructors underneath Shifa were used as a command post.
Barak says Israel built underneath the hospital. Now we move ahead a few seconds to a bewildered Christian Amanpour.
When you say it was built by Israeli engineers, did you misspeak?
No, decades ago we were running the place. So we held them. It was many decades ago, probably 4 decades ago, that we helped them to build these bunkers in order to enable more space for the operation of the hospital within the very limited size of this compound.
Okay, all right. Well, that's sort of thrown me a little bit. So these were there for a long, long time, but you're claiming, or they're claiming, that they're used as a major command center. Anyway.
Israeli construction below the basement would certainly explain all the hospital-like tiles in those rooms off the tunnel. Will Israel allow an independent expert to examine the tunnel? Guess not, because the IDF says it destroyed the tunnels around Al-Shifa. How about a detailed interview with the head of the hospital? That's not happening because Israel arrested top medical staff and is keeping them for interrogation. This is a headline in the Jerusalem Post. The article was written by Yonah Jeremy Bob, who is their senior military correspondent. The article starts, did 200 Hamas forces, who IDF intelligence claims were present at Al-Shifa Hospital, after Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, vanish out of thin air? Jeremy Bob is bewildered that there were no gunfights in the hospital and no Hamas fighters arrested. Later he writes, the taking of Shifa was supposed to be the largest moment of the war, when Hamas was the most broken and possibly Hamas top leaders would be caught and killed. Now, after all this, the big question. If that tunnel was under the hospital, did that erase its legal protected status? Is there a justification for what Israel did to Al-Shifa, surrounding it, the siege, depriving it of supplies and water, the deaths of those babies, those 6 or 7 babies who died among the dozens who were taken out of the incubators for lack of electricity, and then all those who died whose ventilators stopped because of lack of electricity. Finally, for argument's sake, let's say there was a command center under Al-Shifa. Well, Israel took over the hospital, searched all over, destroyed the tunnel. Then what gives the Israeli army the slightest justification for closing the hospital complex and driving out all the patients? Can you imagine you're hospitalized and you're forced out and made to walk miles and miles to the supposed safety of the South? How many patients died on this new trail of tears? On Democracy Now!, we learned about an Israeli school teacher who was fired and arrested and kept in solitary confinement for 4 days because of social media posts where he expressed sympathy with Palestinians. We'll show now a full interview that Democracy Now! Did with Meir Baruchin.
We turn now to look at how the Israeli government's cracking down on Israeli citizens who criticize their government's bombardment of Gaza. We're joined now by Meir Baruchin, a history and civics teacher from Jerusalem, who was recently jailed for 4 days in solitary confinement after he posted a message on Facebook about his opposition to the killing of innocent Palestinian civilians, especially women and children. On November 9th, Israeli police ransacked his house and arrested him. They also seized his phone and 2 laptops. Police interrogated him on suspicion of committing an act of treason and intending to disrupt public order. He was then jailed for 4 days and labeled a high-risk detainee. Baruchin has since been freed, but he's lost his job as a teacher and is still facing charges. Despite this, Meir Baruchin has refused to stay silent and is joining us now from Jerusalem. Meir, welcome to Democracy Now! It was hard for us to get in touch with you over the last few days because your electronic devices like your phone were taken. Can you talk about exactly what happened to you? What did you post? And then how did the Israeli police come to ransack your house?
First of all, thanks for having me. When I got to the first interrogation, the interrogators presented 14 posts, most of them before October 7th. There were posts from 4 years ago, from 2 years ago. Only 1 or 2 posts were after October 7th. What I'm trying to do in my Facebook posts is this. For most Israelis, Palestinians are really vague images. They have no names, no faces, no family, no hope, no plans. And I'm trying to give them names and faces, introduce them to Israelis, so more Israelis would be able to see Palestinians as human beings. So that's what I do in my Facebook. The police didn't like it, so they arrested me.
And when you were arrested, what was the substance of the interrogation against you during that time, and how were you treated?
On November 9th, I got a call from the police to come over for interrogation on sedition. I called my lawyer, and he said that in order to interrogate an Israeli citizen for sedition, they need an approval from the general attorney. The police did ask for approval, but was rejected. so they decided to interrogate me for intention to commit an act of treason and disrupt public order. The minute I walked into the police station, they shackled my hands and legs, and they showed me a warrant to search my house. 5 detectives took me to my house and ransacked the place. Then I was taken back to the police station for the first interrogation that lasted 4 hours. After that, I was taken to the jailhouse. I was, like you said, I was categorized high-risk detainee, separated from everyone. I wasn't allowed to bring anything with me, a book or something. I spent there 4 days in order not to go crazy. I exercised every hour and a half, 2 hours. On Sunday evening, November 12th, they took me for a second interrogation, and their technique was, it wasn't really asking questions, it was more of a rhetoric. When you install the answer inside the question, you don't really let the other person choose his own answer. For example, they said something like, as someone who justifies and legitimizes the rapes of Hamas people on October 7th, don't you think that, that was their technique? Also, in my second interrogation, at a certain moment, they said that my Facebook posts are just like the protocols of the elders of Zion. Now, I'm a history teacher, so I asked them, did you ever read the protocols of the elders of Zion? There was no comment. I was taken back to the jailhouse, and on November 13th, I was released by the judge, and still they kept me in the jailhouse for another 3.5 hours.
And what has been the response of fellow teachers in Israel and of the press to your arrest and detention?
Most of mainstream media embraced the statement of the police spokesman who accused me as justifying and legitimizing the rapes committed by Hamas people on October 7th. As for my colleague teachers, hundreds of them are telling me, Mayor, I'm fully behind you, but I have children to support. Mayor, I'm with you, but I'm paying a mortgage. Mayor, I'm with you, but my daughter is getting married. Mayor, I'm with you, but we just started to redecorate the house. They are afraid to speak up. They are afraid to lose their jobs. They see very clearly that these days, Israeli citizens who are showing the slightest sentiment towards the people of Gaza, opposing killing of innocent civilians, they are being politically persecuted. They go through public shaming. They lose their jobs. They are being put in jail. So they are afraid.
Last week, Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, published an editorial headlined "Arresting Arabs and Left-Wingers: How Israel Intends to Crack Down on Domestic Dissent Over Gaza War." In it, Haaretz wrote about your case, saying, quote, "Make no mistake, Baruchin was used as a political tool to send a political message. The motive for his arrest was deterrence, silence any criticism or any hint of protest against Israeli policy. Baruchin paid a personal price." So, Mayor, if you can talk about the fact that you were fired from your job, you have 4 children, right? And also, how unusual is your arrest and being put in solitary confinement, both for Israeli Jews and for Palestinians?
Well, first, I must admit that the fact that I'm Jewish played a key role in my arrest. Had I been Palestinian, it was completely different. There would have been much more violence from the police officers and also in the jailhouse by the wardens. I think it's a clear message for not only to the teachers, but to all Israeli citizens. One of the newspapermen from Yediot Achronot, Ben-Dror Yamini, he called me a soldier in the service of terrorist propaganda. in those specific words. Other newspaper, other journalists also embraced the police statement without getting my response or without even trying to challenge the police statement.
They took your phone and also your computer?
Yes.
Have you
they
gotten
took
it
my
back?
phone. They took 2 laptops. No, not yet. My lawyer is working on it, but the case is still not closed. I'm still facing charges. Also, the Ministry of Education suspended my license, so I cannot go back and teach anywhere in the country.
And what do you tell your kids? We just have 30 seconds, Mayor.
My kids are proud of me, and that's the most important thing.
To support him, we started an online petition. It's not to Israel directly, that's pretty useless, but the object of the petition is to influence the big teacher union, the American Federation of Teachers, which nationally has supported the Israeli government down the line for decades. Hopefully, we can embarrass it into making a statement supporting this teacher. To see the petition, go into our campaign section on thestruggle.org. Anti-Semitism is a real problem. The richest man in the world, who owns Twitter, buys into the worst modern white nationalist and anti-Semitic lies. On November 15th, a Twitter poster claimed Jewish communities were pushing hatred against whites that they claimed to want people to stop using against them. And he said they were supporting the flooding of America with hordes of minorities. These ideas were essentially the same garbage that was in the mind of the killer who shot up dead a dozen Jews in Pittsburgh in 2017. Elon Musk, who evidently dips into the white nationalist sewer, reposted the tweet about hatred against whites, adding the words, "You have said the absolute truth." White nationalist accounts exploded with joy. Jonathan Greenblatt, who heads the ADL, issued a very mild complaint that Musk was validating anti-Semitism. The British paper The Guardian reports Musk later replied, "I am deeply offended by ADL's messaging and any other groups who push de facto anti-white racism." And the paper said he approved of a tweet saying, "Everyone is allowed to be proud of their race except white people." Lots of money, lots of companies pulled their ads from Twitter. Guess who didn't? The ADL. Then on November 17th, Jonathan Greenblatt congratulated Musk. Why? Because Musk took up the Zionist lie that certain words and phrases were codes for genocide of Jews. And now here's the topper. Elon Musk is going to Israel to meet up with Netanyahu, who will obviously give him a whitewash for his brown shirt. Now more of the rally in Waterbury, Connecticut, hands off Gaza.
Can't you see? Joe Biden, can't you see? That you are on a killing spree! That you are on a killing spree!
So free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
100 children killed, 27,000 injured, 36 health facilities, 22 hospitals attacked, 75 years of occupation. Who can dispute this? Who can tell me that the Zionist Zionist ideology, the pro-Israel argument that is predicated on the suppression and murder of Palestinians every single day is right. Who can tell me this is right? And who can tell me that this is motivated by anything other than power and money? When does it end, Biden? When does it end, CT? When does it end, Johanna Hayes? When does this end? We have known this for 75 years. Our grandmas, older than the state of Israel, have been telling us these stories. And yet finally, the public is waking up to the truth.
From the sea to the river. From the sea to the river. Palestine will live forever. Palestine will live forever.
Next, we have the lead organizer for this protest, Fahad Sayed, the vice chair of the Waterbury Human Rights Commission.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May the greetings of peace be amongst all my brothers and sisters in faith or in humanity. I want to speak about a beautiful people, a righteous people, an oppressed people, a brave people. Those are the Palestinian people. Those are the ones that defend Masjid al-Aqsa, those that defend Gaza, those that defend Palestine.
That's our program for today. Please get out and rally for justice. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.